The boy who never stops crying. Isaac from the Binding... Oh, wait, wrong script. Here we are. The boy who traveled to places unknown on a quest to save the world from its destruction. Isaac from Golden Sun. At first glance, I'm sure most of you only know this guy as that one assist trophy who fights using giant hands. So allow me to give you all a brief summary about this cult classic game. Isaac hails from the world called Wayard, and grew up in a small village at the foot of Mount Elef called Vale. This is a special village, as all of its residents are adepts, humans who have the mighty innate ability to use alchemic powers known as synergy. The Adepts of Vale acted as guardians to the Soul Sanctum, an ancient place within the mountain that held the elemental stars, each a pure power source of the four elements that lay out the very foundation of all alchemy: earth, water, wind, and fire. But one fateful day, when 3 of the elemental stars were stolen and Isaac's friends were taken hostage, it was up to him to save them and get the stars back to prevent the full return of alchemy and the ultimate destruction of the world itself. On his journey, he utilized many powerful synergy skills and attacks to aid him and his companions on their travels, and when coming to Smash, he'd show his opponent what it truly means to be an adept. So getting right into things, Isaac would be a mid-weight class character. He'd have 2 jumps and no additional movement options. To start things off, let me address the elephant in the room. Isaac is a fighter who utilizes a type of magic, and yes, a sword. Oh my gosh, he's just another Robin and Hero clone. Might as well make him a costume. That's you. That's what you sound like. You know who you are. And before you continue to overgeneralize, yes and no. Isaac does use a sword, yes, but he doesn't really utilize it all that much. He much prefers to use his synergy. And the type of synergy that Isaac uses isn't really what you'd expect from traditional magic. You see, with the 4 elements of alchemy comes the fact that every adept is naturally more attuned to one of those elements from birth. Isaac himself is a Venus adept, meaning that he's much more proficient in Earth synergy above all else. With that said, you're probably also wondering what the deal is with those giant hands that Isaac uses as an assist trophy. Those are also synergy skills, albeit more utility-based skills that really any adept can learn with proper training. I also find it interesting to see them used in the way they are in Smash, considering that in Golden Sun, those synergy hands were never actually used for fighting, but to solve puzzles. Don't worry though, despite that, I still plan on using those utility skills as a part of this moveset. They're too iconic to leave out. Let's just say that Isaac's fights can be like another puzzle for him to solve, in a matter of speaking. So I hope you guys have a better understanding of Isaac's powers, and with that out of the way, let's start getting into his attacks. Starting with his jab, it can be a 3-hit jab that starts with Isaac doing a straight punch forwards for the first hit, then for the second hit, unsheaths his sword and swings it diagonally forwards from high to low. This directly references Isaac's basic attack animation that he has from his own game. And for the final hit, it has Isaac swing his sword back the other way forwards before resheathing it. His dash attack can be your run-of-the-mill jump/slash attack from high to low. You know the kind that I'm talking about. Despite the commonality of this kind of sword dash attack, this actually references Isaac's basic attack animation that he had during the prologue of the first Golden Sun game when Isaac was 3 years younger. Now for his tilt attacks, let's move away from the sword and give you guys some synergy attacks. For his side tilt, this can have Isaac use the skill called Burst. Burst allows its user to create an explosion directly in front of themselves, which can be used to break open cracked obstacles. For Smash, it'll have Isaac create a quick explosion directly in front of himself to launch any foe hit within the detonation. It has a decent amount of disjoint, but there will also be some end lag. Isaac's up tilt can have him use the Slap skill. Slap was introduced in Golden Sun Dark Dawn for a couple of things like rotating objects or even to wake somebody up. It'll have Isaac swing a synergy hand overhead from front to back with a slapping motion. It's a pretty long-reaching disjointed attack, but as such, there will be some end lag on this as well. In fact, get used to seeing end lag whenever Isaac uses his synergy. After all, with great range comes great repercussion. And with this being the first attack to involve a synergy hand, I should also mention that the hand will not be as large as we see it in Smash when Isaac uses it as an assist trophy for pretty obvious balancing reasons. In which case, the down tilt can have Isaac use Scoop, a utility skill that has the synergy hand dig and scoop up dirt to possibly uncover hidden buried goodies. For Smash, it'll have Isaac take the synergy hand and do a low to the ground scooping motion to swing the hand from low to high. Now for Isaac's side smash, it will have him use his sword again, but he'll be utilizing another power to further enhance its capabilities. There's something else that aided Isaac and his friends on their journey that proved to be a massive asset to them. After the elemental stars were stolen, it led Mount Aleph to erupt, and when it did, it awakened and scattered across the world mythical creatures for Isaac and Ko to befriend to make use of their powers. These creatures are known as Jinn, and just like with the Adepts, there are 4 species that each represent the 4 elements. The Jinn can be equipped to the Adepts to increase certain stats as well as teach new moves, and at the cost of those stat buffs and attacks, you can unleash them from the equipped characters to have that Jinn use its own unique attack to really help give the edge in battle. And it'll be one of these unique Jinn attacks that Isaac will be utilizing for his side smash, specifically the power of Isaac's very first Jinn, the one who was with him since the very beginning of his journey, Flint. Flint, when unleashed in battle, allows Isaac to strike with a Venus-aligned attack that deals massive damage. So that'll be what he'll be doing for his side smash. As he charges the attack, you'll see Flint fly around Isaac's sword to imbue it with Venus energy. And when the attack is released, Isaac will swing his sword from high to low, slamming the blade on the ground. And at the moment of impact, whether that impact is from hitting the ground or a foe's face, that built-up energy will be released into an explosion, one that'll ruin anyone's day. Being in the middle of the explosion hurts, of course, but with it being an explosion and all, it will have splash damage to hurt any other opponent that's way too close. Now for Isaac's up smash, it can have him use the Venus-based synergy skill called Growth. Growth is one of the few skills that can be used for both overworld utility as well as battle. In the overworld, you can use it to grow vines to act as ladders, but for the up smash, we'll be using the battle version of Growth. This has a bunch of thorny vines grow straight up from the ground to hurt any foe from below. The vines will grow around Isaac and will stab upwards to hurt any foe above himself. Since the vines grow around Isaac, this can be used to possibly clang with other attacks, or even as a good get-off-me tool since any foe who touches the vines will be hurt by them. But thanks to that end lag of the vines needing to retreat back into the ground, it's not wise to rely on it too often. But now for his down smash, it can have Isaac use another Venus synergy skill, this time Quake. It'll have Isaac activate the skill, and 2 flat pillars will shoot up from the ground on both sides of Isaac, launching any foe upwards who are standing above them. Isaac's neutral area can have him use the skill called Cyclone. They should have spelt it Cyclone. Missed opportunities here, guys, come on. This is a utility skill that has its users spin in place fast enough to blow away nearby leaves and weeds. For Smash, it'll have Isaac spin very fast in place, turning his whole body into a hitbox, and any foe who touches his body will be dealt a lot of multi-hitting damage before being launched away with the final hit. But that's only if you touch his body. If you're too close to Isaac but aren't actually touching him, then you'll actually be pushed away by the wind box that this move gives off, true to its origins. The forward air can be a 2-hit attack that has Isaac swing his sword forwards from high to low for the first hit, and then swing it back up from low to high for the second. Both hits can launch, but so long as the attack connects properly, more often than not, you will be hit by both swings before being launched. The back air can be another 2-hit attack, except this one can have him do 2 quick horizontal turnaround kicks from each foot one at a time. And the up air can be another 2-hit attack, except this one can have him do a backflip kick, kicking upwards with one leg, and after that leg does the full kick, kicks with the other leg for the second hit to complete the full flip. And for the down air, this will not be a 2-hit attack, but instead a reference to the synergy attack called Spire. Spire allowed its user to summon a large stalactite to fall from high up onto their enemies below. Isaac won't do this for his down air exactly, however. Instead, what he'll do is use synergy to cover his sword with stone to form a stalactite and then stab it straight downwards. This spike can spike if its sweet spot's at the tip of the spike. To grab opponents, Isaac can once again utilize the synergy hand and use a skill called Grip. Grip was introduced in the third game as a combination of catch from the first game and lash from the second game. Isaac will send the hand forwards a fair distance to grab any opponent within its reach. And this grab will act as a makeshift tether move. It can be used in the air as an additional attack, and it can grab ledges for Isaac to pull himself to. The pummel will have the hand squeeze the foe to rack up damage. The forward throw will have Isaac use the skill Force, which will have him effectively punch the foe forwards with that other synergy hand. And no, he's not a Jedi. The back throw will be a throwy version of the skill called Move, though it will pretty much just have Isaac use the hand to throw the foe behind himself. The up throw will have Isaac use a combination of Lift and Crush. Two hands will appear to lift the foe high into the air, then after they reach the apex of their height, they'll come crashing down to smash the foe into the ground and bounce them high into the air. And the down throw can have him use the Pound skill, which involves clenching the hand like a fist and smashing it straight down like a hammer. In Golden Sun, this skill was used to hammer stakes into the ground for certain puzzles, so to reference that for Smash, this will be a throw that buries its victims. Remember the Jinn? Well, I hope you liked them, because for 3 out of 4 of Isaac's special attacks, he'll be using their powers. Starting with his neutral special, this can have Isaac use the Venus Jinn called Ground. Ground has some control over gravity, and when unleashed, gathers energy into a foe and forces them into the ground, making it so that they're unable to move until their next turn. For Smash, he'll do just that. Energy will be gathered downwards into the spot right in front of Isaac, and if a foe is hit by this energy while standing on the ground, it'll bury them, rendering them immobile just like it does in Golden Sun. If a foe is hit by this energy while in the air, on the other hand, it'll cause them to be spiked instead, bouncing off of the ground assuming that there's one below them. For Isaac's side special, he can call upon the power of the Venus Jinn named Sap. Sap, when unleashed, has Isaac do a basic attack, but when it connects, heals Isaac for half of the damage that he dealt to his foe. It'll do the exact same thing for Smash, except there will be the added motion of Isaac doing a stinger-like stab with his sword horizontally straight forwards, and he'll drain the health of any foe in his way. It goes a fair distance, so this move can also be used for horizontal recovery, and using it will not put Isaac into freefall, but if it is used in the air, then Isaac has to touch the stage before he can use it again. For Isaac's up special, this will be the one special that won't use a Jinn, but instead the synergy skill called Hover. Synergy will build up as a platform under Isaac's feet and raise him straight upwards. Once Hover reaches the apex of its height, it won't immediately disappear. Instead, Isaac will remain on that horizontal plane and will actually be able to walk in mid-air left and right. However, Isaac will only be able to walk or run when he does this, and if you try to press any other button, it'll break his concentration and end the hover early. If you don't press any other button, then hover will last for at most 3 seconds before automatically ending on its own. Regardless of how hover ends, once it does, Isaac will go into freefall. Isaac can't control how high hover takes him once it activates, it always goes a set distance, but it will interrupt early if Isaac gets too close to a ledge, of which of course he just grabs. And finally, for Isaac's down special, it can have him use the Venus Jinn called Vine. Vine, when unleashed, is able to lower all enemies' agility by growing a patch of vines under their feet to make it harder for them to move around. For Smash, using this special will have Isaac lay down a small patch of vines on the ground into the spot in front of himself. Any foe who steps into this vine patch will have their movement speed cut in half for 5 seconds. There can only be one vine patch on stage at a time, and if Isaac tries using down special again, then the first one will disappear when the new one is made. That said, the vine patches that are made can remain out indefinitely, but they will automatically go away whenever Isaac loses a stock. And that's it for Isaac's attacks. So with that out of the way, I have a Golden Sun trivia question for you guys. What is the name of the first Jinn that joins you in Golden Sun: The Lost Age, the second game in the Golden Sun series? I'm curious to see who knows the answer to this. I'll give you all 5 seconds. Time's up! If your answer was Echo, then you were right. The main character of Golden Sun: The Lost Age, Felix, coming in as Isaac's Echo Fighter. Felix is one of Isaac's childhood friends who also grew up in Vale. Unfortunately, he was presumed dead after a terrible accident. But quite fortunately, he was saved. But double unfortunately, again, the people that saved him were also some not-so-nice company, and in the first game, Felix is actually Isaac's enemy. But in the second game, the story continues with Felix's point of view, where we get to see Felix's true intentions, and we get the ever-important reminder that sometimes what you see and believe isn't always the same as how it truly is. With that said, Felix himself is also a Venus adept, just like Isaac, so as such, they learn a lot of the same exact skills. They're even able to use the same kind of weapons. Overall, it makes perfect sense for Felix to be Isaac's Echo Fighter, with the biggest difference between the two being their personalities. Heck, they even end up being in-laws after Isaac marries Felix's sister, Jenna. In terms of being an Echo Fighter, attribute-wise, they're identical, but they do have one major difference, or rather I should say, 4 major differences, and that would be the 4 Jinn that they use. Felix will not use Flint, Ground, Zap, or Vine, which were all Jinn that Isaac can meet in the first game. Instead, Felix will use 4 Jinn that he can meet in the second game. And since they are different Jinn, they will have some minor differences, though I should emphasize the minor part of that sentence. There won't be much, but they will be there. First off, for Felix's side smash, instead of Flint, Felix will be unleashing the aforementioned Echo, who, for all intents and purposes, does the same thing as Flint. Increases the power output of his base attack, though unlike Flint, who doubles up on the power using one powerful strike, Echo releases 2 smaller explosions to double up on that power. So when Felix uses his side smash powered by Echo, the impact of his sword will release 2 smaller explosions. It's overall still the same power output as Isaac's side smash, but the interesting thing here is that if both explosions connect properly, then that second explosion will actually launch foes at high angles. Next, for Felix's neutral special, instead of Ground, he unleashes Petra, who, just like Ground, makes it so that a foe loses their next turn. But instead of forcing the foe into the ground using gravity, Petra, true to its name, petrifies a foe by turning them into stone. So for Smash, Petra will unleash the same kind of energy as Ground, but instead of burying them, they'll actually be turned to stone, unable to move. This, however, really is no different from being buried, as all you'd have to do to escape from the petrification is mash buttons, just like you would if you were buried, though you will be freed sooner if you're attacked, which will just knock you out of the petrification. And if you're turned to rock while in the air, you fall like, well, a rock, so you may as well have been spiked. For Felix's side special, instead of Sap, he uses Steel. And just like with the prior 2, Sap and Steel do the exact same thing when unleashed with very slight differences in their damage formula. But for this moveset, they're identical. Felix's side special works exactly like how Isaac's does. And the same can be said for Felix's down special, which is identical to Isaac's but with a new coat of paint. Or, in this case, a new coat of mud, as that's the name of the Jinn that Felix will be using instead of Vine. Mud. As you can probably guess, instead of a vine patch, Mud leaves a mud puddle on the ground, which does the exact same thing as the vine patch, it's just muddier. So to the hardcore Golden Sun players out there, you're probably wondering why I chose to give Isaac and Felix 4 Venus Ginny instead of one of each element, which is something you can do. Others have probably also been screaming at their screens saying that I forgot about a 3rd power that the Jinn can do, wondering why I didn't bring it up or thinking that I just forgot about it entirely. Well, here's the reason for both of those. For Isaac's final smash, he'll summon the power of the Venus Summon known as Judgment. Summons can only be called after you unleash a certain amount of Jinn that are required for that summon. In this case, Judgment can only be called upon after unleashing 4 Venus Jinn. Oh, and look at that! Isaac has 4 Venus Jinn sitting right there. Upon activating the final smash, Judgment will appear at the top of the stage, and Isaac will use Teleport to get out of dodge. From there, Judgment will fire a massive blast straight down, and when it makes contact with the stage, it creates a large explosion that quickly expands. The explosion just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and all foes caught in this explosion will be unable to escape and will take massive damage before being launched away after the explosion concludes with one final blast. After which Judgment will disappear, and Isaac will reappear with his 4 Jin returning to him to resume the fight. Now, it would make sense that Felix would have the same final smash since he also has 4 Venus Jinni, but that's boring, so I'm gonna give him a different summon. Here's the fun thing about the Jin. While you can of course equip them to unleash, you can also have the equipped Jin on standby, making it so that you can't readily use them, but instead have them ready for some immediate summons. And in this case, let's just pretend that Felix just so happens to have 2 Mars Jin sitting on standby to use with 3 of his Venus Jin. For Felix's final smash, he can call upon another powerful Venus summon, one introduced in the same game where Felix is the playable character, Horus. Felix will teleport away and Horus will emerge from the darkness. From there, Horus will be shown speeding across the screen at multiple angles, slashing with its powerful claws every time it passes by, dealing big damage to any foe in Horus' way. The smash ends with one giant and mighty slash that's much harder to dodge and will launch all foes hit by it. And to add insult to injury, even if you do live, there's a high chance that you'll find yourself poisoned if you did get hit by Horus' toxic claws, after which Horus will disappear as Felix reappears to resume the battle. For colors, Isaac's default will have him in his iconic original design at 16 years old. His first alt can give Isaac the colors of his childhood friend and the one whom he set off with when he first started his journey, the Fire Adept Garrett. The next could be based off of Isaac's second companion, the mind-reading Wind Adept named Ivan. After that can reference Isaac's third companion, the gentle Water Adept named Mia. His next alt can be a costume, and it can show Isaac as he is in Golden Sun Dark Dawn, which takes place 30 years after the first 2 games. And this costume can have a single alternate color, and it can be based off the color of Isaac's mentor, the alchemic researcher named Kraden. And then there can be another alternate costume for Isaac, except this wouldn't have you playing as Isaac, but instead his son, Matthew, whom of which is also a Venus Adept with near identical powers to that of his father. And Matthew can also have a single alternate color, and it can give him the colors of one of his first companions, as well as the daughter of Ivan, the Wind Adept known as Karis. Now for Felix's alt, he won't have any costumes, only colors. His first alt can be based off of his sister and Isaac's wife as of Dark Dawn, the Fire Adept Jenna. Then can be a color referencing the mysterious Wind Adept known as Sheba. Then there's an alt based off the Water Adept hailing from an ancient kingdom, Piers. Then for his next 4 colors, they can be based off the 4 types of Jin. First is the colors based around the Venus Jin. Next is a red and yellow color scheme based off the Mars Jin. Then there's an alt based off the Jupiter Jin. And finally, there can be an alt based off the Mercury Jin. For stage intros, both of them can appear on the stage with an accumulation of energy using the Teleport Synergy skill. For taunts, Isaac's first can show Flint appear and dance around Isaac to get his attention and almost make him lose his balance. His next can have Isaac pose with a clenched fist in the air while creating a synergy hand that mimics the same fist pose. And his last can have Isaac hold his synergy casting pose while having some small rocks and such circle around himself. Felix's first taunt can be like Isaac's where Echo appears, but instead of playing, Echo just flies around Felix, with Felix watching his Jin with a stoic look on his face. The next can have Felix do a quick pose by holding his sword in the air, doing a pose that references his art on the cover of a Nintendo Power magazine. And his final can have Felix use the synergy skill called Sand, which actually allows Felix to melt his body into sand. He does so, and we see the sand spiral around, almost like it's dancing, after which Felix quickly reforms himself back together. And finally, for the victory animations, Isaac's first can have him point his sword towards the sun and then stick it into the ground, holding a similar pose to what we see him do in Dark Dawn. His next can first show a large stone pillar until Isaac moves it out of the way using move synergy, then strikes a very similar pose that Matthew will make in Dark Dawn. And his last can show elemental energy flying around and pouring itself into Isaac as he holds his arms into the air. Then his Jinn appears as he poses with them. This makes reference to the animation that plays whenever you recruit a new Jinn. And for Felix's first victory animation, he can stick his sword into the ground, push his cape out of the way, then pose with his hand on his hip. His second can show him shaking the ground using the Tremor synergy skill, then poses with a sword swing afterwards. And his final can be just like Isaac's final, showing elemental energy flowing into Felix with his arms in the air, but afterwards he'll pose with his back to the camera looking over his shoulder as his Jinn all float around him. And that does it for What If Isaac was in Smash with Felix as his Echo Fighter. Talk about yet another case of the cult classics. Golden Sun's a fun little distraction with pretty compelling gameplay and a fun enough story to follow along with. 'Tis a shame that it didn't get a little more attention. If it did, we'd probably already see Isaac in Smash not as an assist trophy, but as his own fighter. It's so interesting to see other cult classic franchises like Earthbound or Kid Icarus get a chance to shine, whereas others don't get as lucky. I can tell that's why a lot of people want their favorite games and characters to be represented in Smash. They hope that other people will grow to love them just as much as they do. Maybe even go play the games as well. Isaac is already represented in Smash, but if you were a fighter, I hope that this could be the kind of moveset to do just that. Anyways, if you liked what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys, you can click the join button either below the video or on my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. Doing so will get you access to my private Discord, as well as channel emotes. You can guarantee that your name appears in my videos, or even get the option of knowing what if character is coming up next a week in advance. I really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you'd like to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!